Well, welcome to the Jesus Culture Pastors Podcast. I say this every episode, and whenever we film some of these back to back, so it just feels like I'm just saying the same. I think I just told you, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome back.
And we are here, a podcast for pastors, by pastors, not just pastors, anybody building a local church, volunteers, church leaders. We love all of you, and I am convinced that revival is going to flow through the vehicle of the local church.
Come on.
So we just want to come alongside you and just strengthen you and encourage you. And hopefully these podcasts are doing that. Hopefully they are both encouraging, inspiring, but provoking and challenging. Today, our guest is one of the provoking, challenging. I think she's more in the provoking, challenging. She's actually super encouraging, but
so encouraging.
She provokes and challenges. So it's great to have you guys with us. I do want to let you know about two things. This podcast is meant to be a resource for pastors and church leaders, but we also have two other resources, something called the Jesus Culture School of Leadership. It's an online 4-month intensive. It's about 5.5 hours a week. It's meant for those, it's actually built for people that are working already or in leadership somewhere. But check it out. And we've got a lot of pastors in it that are going through it from all over the world. And then also we do a pastors conference every January in Sacramento, and then every summer in the UK. So we'd love to have you be a part of that. Excited to have co-host with us, a good friend all the way from the City of Angels.
City of Angels.
City of Angels, Wes Dunn. Wes, I'm so glad you're with us, jumping
Thanks
on co-hosting.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it was an honor.
How long you planted a church called the House LA? How long ago?
2019, so we got 1 year in. And
do you ever look back and go, man, what a dummy I was? What a prophetic dummy.
I feel like our church has had like 6 lives.
Yeah, it's 6 iterations.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's like,
we started, hey, just kidding, started, just kidding, just started.
Okay, Vanessa and I have this rule now. We will not say the phrase, we are back. Because during COVID, we recorded 3 or 4 different videos that were like the big announcement.
Yes,
we
back.
are back.
Not anymore.
And we said it so many times that I'm like, guys, we're not
We're
in a
not
new
back.
location now. We are back.
So you and your wife Vanessa, who are dear friends of CJ and
we love
mine,
you guys.
and we do absolutely love you guys. And you pastor a church in Los Angeles,
In LA.
In LA, and doing a phenomenal job. What's funny about you is I have you on the podcast just to make other people feel better, other pastors feel better about their life that are looking for a building. This is one of the mandate. Do you remember the motivational posters they used to have?
Like hang in there?
Yeah, well, no,
Like
it'd be like a picture of the Grand Canyon, and then
Oh,
some,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
some
yeah. The
statement,
corporate
and it was
ones.
corporate. It was kind of in a frame.
The courage.
So they had a whole demotivational posters. Have you ever seen those? You got to go look them up.
Quit.
No.
Quit while you're behind.
The demotivational posters, there's a whole website. And they were posters that looked exactly like the motivational posters. Like they were kind of corporate, that little white box around them.
Yeah.
And it's some picture, but with like a demotivational saying. So one of them was this ship, this artistic picture of a ship beginning to sink. And the demotivational phrase was, perhaps your only job in life is to serve as a warning to others.
So you're saying that's Wes, something about you. Something about you. You're like a ship that's sinking.
So I think
as a warning, a prophetic warning.
I think about that with you. So I think there's all these motivational posters, and then there were demotivational posters that looked like a motivational
Where's
poster.
this going?
In how you had eventually you turned around to be a motivational poster.
Okay, yes.
So eventually
the first couple of years were
only
the other route.
around looking for a building. Only for looking for a building. Eventually your story became a motivational poster. Yeah. But man, there was quite a while there when you were looking for a building in particular. Everybody's like, what are they?
Everyone's like, pastors, open your churches. I was like, I'm trying.
You're the demotivational poster. You were looking for a building. LA, it's tough. COVID's going on.
Yeah.
You need a building. LA's tough in general with a bunch of that stuff. But how many buildings did you look at? And how many buildings did you look at, one? And how many buildings did you really think this might be the one?
So we looked at 85 buildings.
85 buildings.
85
and
buildings.
how long of a span?
That was probably about a year.
So in 1 year, 85 buildings.
And it started with...
And how many do you think were like, this is the one?
here's the hard part is when I was about
He goes,
building
85.
85, all of them, I was like, this could work.
This could work.
I was about 18 buildings in. I'm driving on Ventura Boulevard, and I'm like, Lord, I've looked at 18 buildings. And I'm like complaining to the Lord, and the Holy Spirit shot back at me, look at 100. And so instantly it changed from, I was like, we're in this for the long haul. But Benny, there were some that I was laughing / crying with someone the other day because they were praying, hey, can you pray for us? Because now I'm the guy that were like, hey, you got this miracle. Can you talk with us and pray with us? And so there was a couple buildings that were so bad and so far out from like not one
From where
degree,
you're called,
but like 3 degrees where you're like, yeah, this could work. Like one of them, I'm trying to convince myself and I'm like crying, going, Lord, if you want us to be here, it's like falling down. It's condemned.
You're trying to be positive. There's no bathrooms.
No, it was like you're stepping over. Like, yeah, it just everything was bad about it.
So listen, Wes is the story of a demotivational poster that became a motivational poster one day.
I've always wanted to be prophetic, not a prophetic warning.
You're a prophetic warning. What's Wes's story? They're just a prophetic warning.
Well, if you read the book of Judges.
Yes, that's what they're a prophetic warning. Well, it's great to have you on. Listen, we're excited today to actually jump in with somebody who is actually a friend here in the Sacramento area. She pastors a phenomenal church in South Sacramento, and in a completely different context than I do, and is just doing. I was just down there the other day. Went to one of their night services and was just so encouraged by what they're doing. And she's fire, and she's got so much great depth and wisdom in her life as well. So we're excited to jump in and hear from Tamara. Well, listen, I would say that everybody that we have on the podcast is a friend, and we love all of them. Sometimes they're actually friends of friends. I don't necessarily know them. But today is actually one of my favorite people that we get to have on with this episode. Tamara Bennett is the senior pastor of TIP, or This is Pentecost Ministries, in Sacramento. In officially Sacramento. People get on us all the time that we call ourselves Jesus Culture Sacramento while we're in Folsom.
Yeah,
but I'm like, listen, we're in Sacramento County, all right? We're still in Sacramento County. So, but she's actually officially there, and have known each other since we came down. Shortly after that, kind of got connected. And you know how you just get with somebody right away and you just go, I really like you a lot. We're going to be friends. Had her come preach for us, been down to her church, just so love what God is doing. First, I just want to say thanks for jumping on the podcast and being a part of it. It just means a lot.
Dude, I'm with the Banny. Are you kidding me? I'm the privileged one. So, yeah, this is wonderful.
Can you give us a quick, it doesn't actually have to be quick. We got a podcast. We can do whatever we want. Can you give us a rundown on kind of your story and how you got into pastoring?
Yeah, well, let's try to narrow it down.
We got time. It's my podcast. We do whatever we want on this podcast.
Oh, this isn't a closing 3 times and I'm done.
Getting ready to close.
I was raised, my dad was a pastor in Detroit, and as we just shared, he was the pastor of the entire Winans family. Their great-grandfather was the pastor. And then when he passed, my dad was the heir to the ministry. And so we were all raised together our entire lives. My mom and dad, unfortunately, got a divorce at a very young age. For me, I was like 3 or 4. It literally split your life, but it literally split because unfortunately, the hardship of it caused my mother to leave the church. So I lived a double life.
Wow.
Most of my childhood. So with my mom, it was like all at it. And then when I would do the visitations to my dad on Sundays and summertime, I was the preacher's kid. So over time, that became a hard balance. As we know, whenever, God has a beautiful assignment on your life, Satan attempts to come after you young. So by the time I was 14, the enemy promised me that I wouldn't see 18, and I lived like it. So if you dared me, I did it. My peers were 21, 22. School was just a place that I could meet up and then do what I wanted to do. So he was taking me very, very fast. And then I would have to come home or go to Detroit in the summers and be this preacher's kid. It was so schizophrenic. Ended up going to my wits end, and somewhere around 15, 16 years old, and like God does, and I look up and I'm in this house with all these grown people doing a whole lot of grown stuff, and it just hit me hard. And so I was in Maryland. I lived in Maryland at the time. Called my dad and said, I'm tired. I come home. He got me a bus. No plane. Thanks, Dad. But anywho, he got me there, got a bus. Whatever. Okay, Dad, I'm here.
He wanted to make sure you were really repenting.
Yes, tell it.
Yeah, he wanted to make sure I had time to think about
that's
it.
exactly right.
I get there, and like Satan does, he's still trying to keep his hold, and I connect with other people in Detroit. Now I'm connecting with friends and still doing. I like to tell this story, and I get emotional about it every time as if it hadn't happened yesterday. So I'm in Detroit. I'm at church. Again, Pop Winans and Winans' father know me my whole life. So it was in the day where they would serve meals after church. You know, our great black churches with our fried chicken meals and peach cobbler and mac and cheese. So we're downstairs in line. That's where I learned how to cook.
That's amazing.
Line, and he taps me on the shoulder and he said, Tammy, he said, are you saved?
Oh, come on.
And I'm looking at him and like, yeah, no. And so he said, girl, he said, what if you die tonight? And the spirits in me answered back to him and said, I guess I'll just go to hell then. Literally, that was my answer. He looked at me and he said, you better get saved. He said, because tomorrow is too late. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I blow it off. So then that same day, my godmother asked me to go with her to the hospital to visit someone. And this was during the time you could still smoke in the lobby, but kids couldn't go upstairs. So I'm like 16 and I'm sitting in the lobby. This stranger, he's leaning against the wall, smoking a cigarette. This pure stranger, he looks at me and he says, young lady, are you saved?
Oh my goodness.
No. And he said, what if you die tonight? Literally. And so now I'm still trying to be strong with it. And I look at him and I said, I guess I'll just go to hell then. But of course, everything in me wants to say, and where you going, Mr. Puffer? Why you judging me? I don't say it. So I get to church that night and I did my little stuff, whether it was drinking, getting high, whatever it was. And I'm sitting at the back of the church. So my dad is ministering like he's done, like I've always seen him do. He has an altar call like I've heard most of my life. And the enemy in me was saying that. He said, this is nothing new. You've heard altar calls your whole life. And I'm laid back. I was like, yeah, exactly. So I'm sitting back there. And so my father did something he's never done before. And I always get teary-eyed. There were all these people coming to the altar. And Benny, I can't lie, I was saying to myself, I thought y'all was already saved, but I'm not going to judge. It's okay. All these people kept coming to the altar. So I'm really feeling like out of all those people, one of them are the one he's talking to. And he asked the people to move aside. And he caught my eye. And I was sitting at the back of the church. And he said, you have to get saved tonight. Tomorrow is too late.
Woo.
Obviously, I'm clicking the two incidents that day. I walk up to the altar, and literally that night, the Lord allowed me to see me and all that I had done. It was written all over me. And I still get it's nothing like salvation.
Yes,
and when
agreed.
I saw all of my filth, when I saw all that I was in, he allowed those spirits to walk out of me that night. And Benny, I've never gone back. And that's my salvation story, which is why I'm so intense in ministering, because I think I still see what he washed me from. And I want so many people to experience that same kind of freedom. Well, anywho, the Lord places me under this phenomenal woman, older woman, which was good for me because I was so fast. He places me under this phenomenal, sweet, older woman. And please allow me to say this, that literally loved the hell out of me. Literally Like, she was hard, she was strict, but she was so loving. She ignored things that the church wasn't ready for me. Because Benny, I came with a lot of debris. I was coming from the streets, so
Yeah.
I was the street pastor kid. So my language, my mannerisms, my everything. Wow. Let me say this story. You can appreciate Cece Winans, my sister girl today. So when we were part of the house to house prayer, the women would go and pray. I used to be so jealous of her because we would get down on our knees and in seconds, Cece was just weeping before the presence of the Lord. She was just weeping before the presence of the Lord. In my mind, I'm still thinking about Tom and is Jamal gonna call me back? And I mean, it's
like, I'm just getting started. How are you so far down the prayer road?
Like, I would look at this girl and say, how do you do that? But so this woman, my spiritual mother, her name was Mother Stella Boyd. She knew how to deal with all of that with me. Long story short, I traveled with her for 2.5 extensive years, before the day of honorariums and ministry requirements. We drove everywhere and packed our lunches, and we're going to these. To this day, I can't even describe the power-packed services that we were going to and that God allowed her to carry. So it's as if God put me on a fast track. It was as if he knew I needed to be on a fast track. I needed to be under a heavy anointing to keep me, if you would.
Yeah.
And literally from that, he allowed me to marry a man of God that was already in ministry. Very powerful man of God. He was everything that was the opposite of what I came from.
Yeah.
Again, I knew street guys, but he was beautifully saved.
he was beautifully saved.
He was like saved. There's saved, and then there's like saved.
She was ugly saved. He was beautifully saved.
Yeah, they're sort of saved, but anywho, but he was good for me. He taught me ministry. We moved to Texas, where he was already the assistant pastor there. So again, after being on this fast course with my spiritual mother, I always had giftings, but then he helped train it and ministering to people. And then I started traveling with him. We're making that story narrow. He had this like really bad cough, bronchitis, like that I thought was just bronchitis cough. Long story short, he was diagnosed with an incurable disease. And I was working at the airline at the time, working at the airline. I needed the airline so we could travel. So I'm working at the airline. He was full-time ministry. I leave my job to take care of him and banning. It went from helping him get dressed to seizures in the night, to strokes, to changing his diaper, to shaving him, until the end. And I remember, I get it now. I remember a social worker coming to my place, and I get why she came now. I didn't know then. I was like, what, how can I help you? She was really interviewing me to see what was my mental state to take care of him. And so she said to me that eventually you'll need to put him in hospice. And I said, no, I can't. I'll take care of him until he dies. And I did. And so when he passed away, that whole thing about, I don't know what to say. You can't have an attitude with God. Don't question God. It was like, no, I don't know who made that up, but that ain't making sense to me right now. So when he died, as we were preparing for his funeral at the location we are right now, Banning, at the time we had 13 members, maybe 25 strong, 7,000 a month note. And so I'm saying to myself, most of our people, harvest was from the street. So I'm saying to myself, you know what, God, when this is over, we're going to have a serious talk, because I don't know who made that rule up that I can't ask you questions, but this makes no sense. This makes no sense that he's dead. What am I going to do? What are we going to do with this church? I'm not called to minister because I came from Women Don't Pastor.
Wow.
So what am I supposed to do? And the Holy Spirit thundered and brought me to my knees. And he said, humble yourself. I am never wrong. I will be your shepherd, and we will build this church.
Wow.
And that's the story.
Wow.
And then God allowed me to meet my man of God today, which I'm not going to get emotional again. I had kind of made up my mind I would never marry again because I didn't know if I had contracted this disease as well. So I had to be tested, like every 6 months. And so I had made up my mind. I'm going to be honoring the temple. Let's to the day I die.
Yeah.
That ain't what I wanted, but okay, fine. I'll do this if this is your will, Jesus. And so here comes my husband. We meet at a restaurant. He said to me, God said, you're my wife. I crack up. Yeah, right. So he never stops pursuing me. So I remember I was like, you know what? I'm going to have to tell this dude the truth because he just don't get it. So it was the first time I verbally admitted my condition or possible condition and that I didn't know my future. And he looked at me with tears running down his eyes and he said, you will be my wife and you will have my children.
Sheesh.
And you do not have this disease. Now, bro.
He's such a good man too. If you met him, he's phenomenal.
Yeah. Benny, I didn't know if he was called to be prophetic, but I took that prophecy at that point.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And we got married, and I still had to take these tests every 6 months or so. And so a year and a half in, and I kept the same doctor. She's coming out with the report, and her face is beet red. And I'm saying to myself, all right, this is it. I'm going to go live with Jesus, but at least I'm married and it's all good. And she looked at me and she said, Tamara, she said, you do not have this disease, but you are pregnant.
Wow.
And the rest is history.
Wow, look at God.
And that's the story and that's the journey. And that's, and today, Benny knows God truly have been the shepherd of our house, and he's grown our church, and he's blessed our church, and he's blessed our life. And so, that's my journey. I hope I wasn't too lengthy. I try to get
it's our podcast, Wes. We can do whatever we want on this podcast. What she's leaving out right now is her husband is one of the top chefs in Sacramento. He's phenomenal. Well, so she's kind of
a prophetic chef.
It's our grand opening. He should come.
I'm coming.
She's leaving out a little bit that her husband cooks really well. And
what kind of
I'm just saying. So the word
I just
of the
want
Lord.
To know what kind of food
she's
he
like,
cooks.
well, I wasn't really sure I was going to marry him until he told me.
Until I tasted his cooking, I was like, all right, Jesus.
All right, it's your will.
I guess,
I think there's so much to unpack in your story. I really. It's just so profound how the journey, and people wouldn't even know some of these journeys of what people go through, what pastors go through.
Yeah, they see him on a stage and they go, hey, you must have woke up there one day.
Yes, but how much has shaped us or kind of the journey to get there. Could you describe, I'm gonna ask a really broad question. You're a PK, you're kind of prodigal or not saved or whatever it was in that moment.
So I guess I'll go to hell.
I can't even imagine like unsaved Tamara as well. Like saved Tamara has attitude, so I can't even like I'm just like, dear Lord, I'm kind of scared to think of that. Yeah. But you're going through that, all that your first husband goes through. Then you're coming into your own. How did you find? I don't know. I'm going to say lane. How did you really find, because you're coming from a very well-established ministry, you kind of got thrown into the deep end of all this type of stuff. How did you find your confidence? Or this is who you are in ministry, this is what you're called to do, this is how you preach, this is the message you have. Does that make sense? Like, how did you kind of come to that place of confidence, which I would imagine would be the way you got thrown into this thing? How did you find that place? Because you are and I don't say this in a bad way, you know your lane, and you're in it, and you do it well. And you lead and preach and walk with a lot of confidence in what God's called you to. How'd you get there?
That is a huge question. It definitely didn't happen overnight. A line I use these days is I'm wired that way. Like, that's a line I use right now. It's just, I'm wired this way. I think for leaders, period, Banny, I don't think we embrace our journey enough. I really don't. I think we can sometimes be intimidated, which I went through that because I wasn't the typical stand at the podium conference speaker. You know what I'm saying? You know how I am, like to just stand in one spot. Like I remember I was somewhere and I kept walking and they told me later, yeah, you kept moving out of the light and we needed the light for, and I was like, okay. So I think, Banning, I don't even know how to say this, but I think for me, like there was definitely many intimidating times because I just wasn't like some of the peers I knew, even women in ministry. I just wasn't like them. And I've got some wonderful female friends in ministry nationwide. And I couldn't do that. I couldn't do the standstill. I couldn't do the, I don't know, what is it? The hermeneutics and, you know what I mean? Here's your text and 3 points. Yeah. That's just, so what I had to be okay with was it's my story. It's my DNA. It's who I am. And I'm saying that to say that I think, Banny, if more of us as ministers of the gospel of Jesus Christ would embrace how we are, and therefore, to me, what I've learned and really what's really helped me, Banny, is because the harvest he's assigned me to, they like this.
They wouldn't be reached by that other audience. They would, and I think every pastor, every preacher who would be watching this feels a certain level of pressure of I'm not like whoever the flavor of the month is. And maybe God wants, he does give us a multitude of gifts. There's a unity of the Spirit, but there's a multitude of gifts because just like at your husband's restaurant, some people, they may not like that other restaurant. They want this type of food. And so where someone might say, hey, don't open up this type of restaurant. There's nothing, that restaurant has made it here. It's like, well, you know what? There's a whole audience of people that want this type of food. And I'm going to embrace it. And actually, this is what I'm good at. This is what I feel confident in.
Tell me about that a little. Jump into that thing right there because it's actually connected to your assignment, which is such an interesting concept. Like the people that you're called to reach actually need your personality, your ministry, what you carry. Talk about that a little bit because that's an interesting thing. It's connected to who you're reaching.
Yeah, because 70% of our ministry is pretty much unchurched people. It's either that or same scenario that they were ministry kids in some level or another and needed something else than what was the tradition. I'm free-spirited by nature. And for God, just like you said, to be in California, all of my resources were back east.
Yeah.
All of my affiliations were back east. I had no one here. And like I said, that there were no women pastors in our fellowship, if you would. And when my first husband died and my father, all these, pastor friends, and they all were coming to the church. I thought they were coming to support me, but they were coming. I was the grieving widow, but they were coming to see who my father was going to assign this church to, because my father was my covering at the time. And so he prayed in our church and fasted in the church. And God said to him, I need you to look at the fruit. And God took him to the elect lady. And the Lord said to my father, he said, she's been holding this church for a year. She's been praying out this church for a year. It's been growing in the past year. So she's already doing the job. And God told my father, this belongs to her. And he took him to the elect lady and her children. He said, these are her children.
Wow.
And so it was a huge shaking, obviously, in our church organization, because, of course, everybody said, oh, he's got respected persons. He's doing that because it's his daughter. But he kept saying, no, it's because she's holding them.
Yeah, it's growing.
And so to that be said, I think as Wes is saying, which was the perfect analogy, that's exactly what happened, Wes, with where my husband's restaurant is right now. So he's in Roseville, which is 1.8 African-American, if you would. And this is crazy, we've had people that are in the predominant Black area of the South saying, why did you come to Roseville? And my husband said, Roseville found me.
Yeah.
And so when he came to Roseville, he he looked at the area and he said, I'm gonna stay true to my craft. And this is so parallel. He's only cooked fine dining restaurants in his 30-year career. That's all he's ever been in are fine dining restaurants. When he opened up his spot, he said, I'm gonna pull up some of my Southern dishes. I'm a native Florida guy. I'm gonna pull up some of my Southern dishes and I'm just gonna wrap them in all this California comfort and elegance that I know. And here you are, what we call modern comfort. It's exactly what I feel in ministry. I know church. I was raised in church, but there's this raw side of me that was in the streets that have never forgotten what that was like, what the pain was like, what the struggle was like, what the demonic warfare was like. And so there's a part of me that feel like I left a lot of people behind. And the church can sometimes, please forgive me for saying this, we sometimes get so comfortable like a duck, duck, goose, and we continue to stay within the church circle and forget he called us to a harvest.
Yes.
And we can sometimes get out of touch with what they're going through.
Good.
So
Good.
that's me. And so it's like every time, like it literally, like once, like an altar is like, we literally just got a new harvest in straight from the street. And you know what it does to me? It's like a constant upgrade. Because I get to see the new struggles or the warfare today. And it's like, whoa, they doing that. Okay, God, I got to get an upgrade again to be able that the anointing of God, the deliverance of God, the teachings will continue to be relevant.
That's so good.
That's me, that the teachings are relevant. And again, I'm reaching back from where he brought me from, but then I'm saying, God, give me an upgrade so that you remain relevant.
I love that. It sounds like you've gotten really comfortable in your own skin, in your own voice, in the way that God's built you. You're not trying to put on Saul's armor. You're like, hey, this is what God gave me, this sling, this stone. This is how I'm going to fight my battles. What would you say to some of the women who'd be watching the podcast that maybe they're in a leadership role or they're aspiring to be in that leadership role, but maybe they feel some of the pressure to be, because there's not a lot of senior women leaders who are doing what you're doing. What would you say to some of those women or even young leaders who are watching this? What sort of advice would you give to them?
So two things I would say to them is that there's no competition. That's the first thing. I'm not a guy. I don't want to be a guy. I like being a girl. I like makeup. I'm a girl. I'm not a guy. I'm going to give you this example. And this was one of my breakthroughs. One of our members, again, from the streets, father died. The funeral was in Oakland. It was at a church that they didn't want women to do anything, but the member belonged to my church, but the father belonged to a different church. The member said, no, my pastor will have prayer at this church. Okay, fine. We get there. They don't want me to sit in the pulpit. No problem. I sit in the back. I sit right, sit in the front. We do the prayer. Okay, so now it's time for the people to come around. So all the pastors lined up like they do. The collars turned backwards. Looks so great. So I'm standing back, sort of, until my member, the last of the family. It's time for the family to come up. So I go up to support the family. Well, these pastors are just standing there like they do, starch, and just watching the people come by. The family, the young man, he's standing there. He's trying to be strong. The wife is standing there. She cared for her father-in-law. She took care of him. And it wasn't easy, but she cared for him. So the son, he looks at his wife, tears streaming down his face. Calmly, he just looked at her and said, "Thank you." But it was like so deep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In that
Wow.
moment, we all start crying.
Yeah.
I'm crying, she's crying, he's crying. And I grab both of them and I'm just holding them. And they're both laying on my shoulders crying. At that moment, as these pastors stood back and stared, the Lord said to me, "This is what you bring.
Come on now.
I love that.
I made you this way."
Yes.
Come on.
And at that moment, I understood he made me to feel. I'm a female. I nurture. It's part of who I am. There's no competition. It doesn't take away from my preaching. It doesn't take away from my teaching, but I embrace, he made me this way. So I would say to women in ministry that, first of all, know that there's a gift. Ministering is a gift. It's not who you are. And so I would say to sisters, like for me, when I'm done ministering, I happily go home and I'm a wife and I'm a mother and I love cooking and I love putting on fuzzy socks and watching the games. I love curling up with my husband. I love that I'm his sweetheart. And when I get up to minister, I pastor, it's a gift. And I let the gift do what it does. And then when it's over, it's over. My children are not confused that I'm their mother. I'm their mother. And even within our church, I brought that clarity. And I said to our church, I need you to understand, I am a mother to my children. And they will always have priority. Because if God forbid anything happens to me, members, you will find another pastor.
Yeah.
But my children will never find another mother.
That'll preach.
So I'm clear with that. And I encourage women in ministry, stop trying to prove something. What are you trying to prove? What are you trying to prove? Okay, so much. Okay, I need my sister girls not to be offended. Wes, I don't go to women's stuff. Just please, I hope my sisters don't judge me. And let me explain. I don't go to I don't know what to tell you, Women Pastors United. I don't know. I'm making stuff up.
Someone's watching there. They just named it Women's Pastors United.
Ooh, that's a
guys,
great
we got to
name.
get a name change.
Yeah, scratch her off. Yeah. So let me tell you why. Because if we're saying that God have gifted us and that this is our gift to minister the gospel of Jesus Christ, when we do these kind of things, we've separated ourselves. So either it's a gift and that we can come together as a gift and then we're done. But if I get in the group, I've separated myself from you, Wes, because I've made a distinction and it's a gift and there is no male or female. It's a gift. So for Banny and I to be able to come together, have coffee together and talk about the good news of Jesus Christ. He goes home and be a husband. I go home and be a wife. But right now we can talk about the gift. Hallelujah. So there should be a uniting together about the beautiful gift of God and how we can strengthen one another because it's a gift. God have used Banny to send me a word of prayer that just rocked my world. God have used me to leave a word. That's what the gifts do. But when you segregate them, female and male, well, then you've separated the gift. So that's just me. And I would tell women in ministry, flow with the gift of God. Let him use you and stop. You stop putting a limitation on where God wants to take you and do. And just be the beautiful woman that he's asked you to be and go home.
Tamara, you have one of the things I've known about you and your church, which is in obviously an urban context more than our context, but you have a real passion for the younger generation, not just in kind of assigning the youth pastor or young adult pastor to reach them. Like what I've known about you is your heart's really burning. And even when you're talking about these people coming from the streets, much of them is this kind of younger generation. Where did that passion come from? Why is it important? What is it? What would you talk to pastors about with that?
I think for sure in my early years when I was traveling with our spiritual mother, there was many times that was prayed over me and prophesied over me. And that was when I myself was newly saved. But I didn't really embrace it, honestly, until probably after COVID.
Really?
And I had to own what harvest kept coming. So as we talk about confidence and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I wanted to have the church with the doctors and lawyers and attorneys and business people. It make budgets so much easier.
the people coming to your husband's restaurant in Roseville.
Yeah,
isn't that funny?
Yes.
That's his harvest.
Yes,
That's
totally.
his harvest. Exactly.
Look, we just switch that. Just a Sunday switch real quick.
But that didn't happen. Well, it did. It did. Don't get it wrong.
Yeah,
it did.
we get it.
And God, by his grace, he's always sustained us. We've never been a church that had to beg people to come and minister to raise money. He's always sustained us. So therefore, I couldn't complain. But something happened in 2018 the Holy Spirit told me to come off the road and stay home. And mind you, it was like at a peak for me. I literally was going all over the world, London, China, Amsterdam. And the Lord said, I want you to come home. This was in 2018. Okay. So I obey God. 2019, I'm home. As God would have it, October 2019, God allowed my husband to get his restaurant. As God would have it, March 2020, COVID hits.
Yeah, totally.
So what's crazy is it didn't bother me.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Because he had already shut me down and home. Staying home, though, Banning, made me see my harvest better. Sometimes we can be so busy, and Martha, in all due respect, even in leadership, it's not bad works. It can still be good works, but I wasn't seeing my harvest. What am I growing in this field? What are you asking me to plant in this field? And what fruit is coming up from what we're ministering? So it made me literally see. And so what happened was, it was so funny. I can't remember one of those services. And we're preaching hard, we're teaching hard. And I say to the church, it was dealing with me up here, and I say to the church, all of you 40 and under, come to this altar. There's an oil falling. It was 70% of the church.
So the whole room.
It's like two guys in the back. Everyone except for you two,
Yes.
come forward.
It was like, oh my God. It was like hysterical. And that point on, I was like, why am I fighting the process? And I literally felt that way, like, God, why am I fighting the process? If this is the harvest you've given, and you've sustained us with this harvest, you've met our needs with this harvest, so let it be. So there's that. The second part, the drive, is literally I see myself over and 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 over. And if someone didn't snatch me up and believe in me and pray with me, because Banny, you're right. I mean, I can be kind of a fireball with Jesus. I was much without him. So to see these same lives, and Wes, look, some of these same kids that were unchurched, drug dealers, etc. Wes, these kids are now married.
Come on.
They got children. They have businesses. 70% of our folk are homeowners. To see
That's
God
huge.
develop them,
Huge.
I'm good.
When you got saved, you're young, and there's these spiritual forces also at play. And that's been, it seems like a reoccurring part of your story of basically people snatched out of darkness. And that there's spiritual forces, which sometimes in the church, the pendulum can kind of swing one way or the other way. And maybe over the last couple of decades, the church has really loved its systems, and people forget that there's a spiritual world out there as well, that we actually do have an enemy.
That's a great
phrase. He is out there like a roaring lion, seeking who he would devour. And it seems like that's not only a part of your story, it's a part of your ongoing ministry, and it's a part of your church as well, like snatching people out. Prayer. I've heard you talk a lot about prayer. In your church today, especially with those young people, how are you able to teach them about the reality of the spiritual world when maybe they're just new to spirituality in general?
I think, honestly, Wes, I truly think that the church, I think we underestimate their ability to comprehend. And I think we underestimate it, again, because we know how deep things can be. And it's almost as if, and let me walk with this. I think the climate today of everybody being offended, politically correct, socially correct, I think is definitely an overcast to attempt to muzzle our voice, because to minister on sin will be extremely offensive.
Right. Right.
To speak demonic issues will be extremely offensive. But let me tell you what becomes my gasoline is I'm conscious, but it's the only way they're going to get free. Is they have to know this truth. So good. when we take them to prayer, and this can get very soft, I sincerely ask God and lean on gifts of knowledge that God can pray conditions, situations, that then it's undeniable that these things are happening. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the spiritual discernment has to be like on an all-time high to even know what to pray. That then they're hearing something that they know they didn't tell you. They know you couldn't have known because I don't know you. And for you to be able to discern or have the gift of knowledge of my circumstances, that's where it all starts. So now we've softened their heart to hear truth. And so I am, unfortunately, very transparent with my story. And I say unfortunate because sometimes I'd be like, God, do I have to tell everything?
Yeah, tell it.
Yeah, I need you to tell it. So when they understand, I get it, because let's remember, sin don't change. He just changed clothes, changed the way it looks, but it doesn't change. In Galatians 5, when it talks about the works of the flesh, they're still the same works.
Yeah, and that's the truth.
They're the same works.
Right.
They're just working differently or uniquely, but they're the same works. So with that being said, even sharing my story, and I've been walking with God for 30 plus years, they relate. Because a high is a high is a high. Sleeping around is sleeping around is sleeping around. Cussing is cursing, drinking is drinking. Do you understand what I'm saying? Being transparent, and then they're looking now, it becomes their hope.
Yeah.
And so, as Paul said, I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ, because it is the power of God of my salvation. Yes. And so that's how I minister it to them. And again, I don't underestimate that they're looking for truth. It's like the world today, they're saying something's wrong. What's wrong? And they're saying, who knows what's wrong? So when we began to, lately I've been teaching about the separation of righteousness and wickedness. And God is telling me, make it very clear. I hear the cry of the righteous cry out. And I hear them, and he's making me understand. Don't make this inclusive. Say the word.
Inclusivity.
Thank you very much. Do not make it as if that stands for the church. He said, I separate the righteous from the wicked, and you have to make it known. There's a separation to God. God so loved the entire world. He loves us all, that we won't die. But the separation is that you believe that love.
Yeah.
And because you believe that love, I got you. But otherwise, he said it's righteous and it's wicked. So as I've been teaching that, they're loving it, because it's making them say, yo, I got to get off of this other side. What?
Yeah.
You mean he's not okay that I'm sleeping around? You mean he's not okay with my cannabis gummy bears? You mean?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, it's speaking truth and light into people that are like, when Jesus came, it was, hey, a light came into the darkness. And when you're preaching that truth and you're talking about, hey, the truth of the gospel is that everyone's in, but at the same time, it's the ecclesia, it's the called out one. So God so loved the world, but then he also calls you out and he calls you into a community. So there is a righteousness and there is a wickedness and there is a separation.
You know what? And to tag that, Wes, real quick, because you could stay right there for a minute. To know that he called you out and have chosen you, it heals so much of the rejection today.
Wow, such a good word.
It heals so much of the neglect, the broken families, the dysfunction of families that the enemy is making grow wild, the need to be accepted. When you're ministering that God handpicked you, that you have been chosen, that you didn't choose me, I've chosen you, it's a game changer. It's a game changer.
So good.
All right, Tamara, listen, I'm going to ask you to you have a whole YouTube following, you're preaching online. Before I ask you to tell people how to find you, I need you to very quickly, and I didn't even tell you this wasn't on the run sheet.
I'm excited to hear what this is going to be.
A bunch of this wasn't on the run sheet, actually, what we were talking about. Will you tell me the story of your microphone? This is literally one of my favorite things about her. is the I kid you not, is the microphone she preaches with, because I'm like, yes, that is you. You should be preaching with that. That is you. Tell me the story really quickly. And people, they're going to go watch you on Instagram and YouTube, and they're going to see what I'm talking about.
They will subscribe just to see.
I wasn't trying to be bougie or something. Literally, COVID. So behind the scenes, we never shut our church down because we were feeding the homeless.
Yeah.
So we were doing Saturday prayers, but when it was time to really go back, my husband kept telling them, you guys, pastor can't keep mixing her mics with you all. And then, they were doing the covers and he didn't like the way that looked. So he bought that mic.
Oh my gosh. It's like a gold, I don't even know what it is. It's fantastic.
But please make people know I did not. I had someone ask that question on YouTube, and they said sarcastically something like, that's what I'm saying. These pastors with they blinged out mics. And I said, yeah, tell my husband it was a gift from COVID.
I love everything about it.
It was a gift.
Where do they find you on Instagram and YouTube to hear all your preaching?
It's Tamara Bennett Ministries. Just Pastor Tamara Bennett Ministries.
Tamara Bennett Ministries.
I love that.
My friend, thank you for joining us. You've been amazing. Such gold and
love
so
you,
strong.
Brother, my honor.
We'll do it again. Well, here's the deal, man. Every one of these podcasts, I feel like, am I really just going to have to set aside? We're going to go Joe Rogan.
We're just 2.5 hours next time.
Like I whatever time frame we have, I'm like, we just probably need to do long form. It's just gonna be a Joe Rogan thing. We just set it up. It's gonna be 4 hours of a conversation with people.
Yeah, with a nap break or something in the middle.
Something, because it really is amazing. I just am. First of all, I could hear salvation stories all day.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're like that. I'm
Her
sure you
stories, it's so powerful.
are. I just am
hearing the same thing over, and the third time, it's like.
And just hearing how God pursues people, and then that thing that marks people, they go, now I'm going to do that for others.
Yeah, like the older woman.
Yes.
Who became like a spiritual mother to her.
I wanted to have a whole podcast on, she said she was hard. She goes, she loved the hell out of me, but she was hard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's
like, talk to me about, I want to hear some more.
Tell me about that, because I think we've lost some of that stuff. We've lost some just discipleship. And you hear from some of these guys, they have weathered the storms of life. They have weathered the storms of ministry. And some of it's like, yeah, dude, my discipleship process was a pretty hardcore old woman who didn't let me get away with anything at all, but I knew she loved me.
Yeah, loved her deeply. Loved Jesus deeply, willing to just, hey, well, if I can just preach Jesus and bring my own sandwiches, I'm in.
Yeah.
Like, what a beautiful story.
Good. All right, guys, well, you know what to do. Go like us and comment on us and help spread the word and share the word on all this type of stuff. And hey, we would love to see you at Pastors Conference, either here in the States or in the UK. So, all right.